"Look at you," he sneered at me, his eyes full of disgust. "You're fat. You're worthless. No man would ever want you." I can still hear those words like knives carving into me. And the worst part? They came from the man I once thought was the love of my life. My husband. It wasn't enough that he mocked me when I was at my weakest. No. He had to humiliate me further. Because one night, when I walked into my own bedroom, I found him with another woman. In our bed. The same bed where we had once whispered promises of forever. I can't describe the kind of pain that hits you in a moment like that. Your heart doesn't just break, it shatters, and every piece digs into you like glass. I remember standing there, numb, asking myself how the man who once swore he'd protect me could be the same man who destroyed me so cruelly. In that moment, I thought it was the end of me. And honestly, for a while, it was. But here's the part he never saw coming. The woman he mocked, the woman he betrayed. I didn't stay broken. I rebuilt myself. Piece by piece, tear by tear, day by day. And years later, when I walked into his office, I wasn't his wife anymore. I wasn't his victim. I was the CEO. And the look on his face when he realized it, that was the sweetest moment of my life. This is my story. The story of how I went from broken and humiliated to powerful and unstoppable. How I turned my pain into the very weapon that gave me back my life. But before I could rise, I had to fall. And the fall was harder than I ever imagined. Stay with me until the end, because you won't want to miss the way this story turns around. And before we dive in, I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching this from? Leave it in the comments below, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Before everything fell apart, I used to be someone else. Someone lighter, brighter, more beautiful, and full of energy. I was the kind of woman who believed the world was wide and open, just waiting for me to carve my place in it. I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to start my own company someday, something meaningful that I could build with my own two hands. I didn't care that I came from a modest family, or that people told me life was too hard for dreamers. I believed in hard work, in passion, and in love. And then Derek came into my life in college. He wasn't just charming, he was magnetic. The kind of man who made a room stop when he walked in and made women swoon. But what drew me to him wasn't just his looks, it was the way he looked at me, as if I was the only woman in the world. He chased me with flowers, with late-night calls, with promises of forever whispered under streetlights. He used to call me Bella Donna, his beautiful woman, and every time he said it, I believed it. I believed him. When he asked me to marry him, it felt like I had won the jackpot of life. Our wedding wasn't grand, but it was ours. I remember walking down the aisle, my heart racing, my smile so wide it hurt. Friends told me they could see love shining in my eyes. I thought they were right. Those first years were beautiful. Sundays in the kitchen, flipping pancakes while music played softly in the background. Nights curled up together, whispering about our future, children, a house by the lake, a life built hand in hand. He used to hold me tight after making love and tell me he couldn't imagine a day without me, and I, foolishly, thought love like that would never fade. I gave him all of me, my support, my loyalty, my time. I pushed aside my own dreams so I could help him climb the ladder in his career. I thought that was what marriage was about. Sacrifice, compromise, teamwork. I thought we were unshakable. But love, I would learn, can turn to cruelty faster than you can imagine. At first, it was little things. His sighs when I said something wrong, the way he stopped calling me Bella Donna, the cold silences that stretched longer each night. I told myself it was stress, work, life, anything but the truth, because the truth was something I couldn't face back then. The truth was that the man I had once trusted with everything was starting to slip away, and I had no idea just how dark things were about to get. I was 29 when my body started to betray me. At first I thought it was just stress, maybe the long hours, maybe the way life had started to feel heavier. But when I couldn't shake the exhaustion, when my cycles became irregular, when the weight kept piling on no matter how hard I tried, I knew something was wrong. The doctor's words still echo in my head. Polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS. It explained everything: the sudden weight gain, the mood swings, the acne, the way my energy drained out of me like water from a cracked glass. I tried diets, exercise, medication, but nothing seemed to work. My body was no longer mine, and every time I looked in the mirror, I felt like a stranger was staring back. But the hardest part wasn't the illness, it was Derek. At first, he pretended to care. He said he understood. He told me it was just a phase. But as the months went by, his patience turned into disgust. And that disgust turned into words I can never forget. "You disgust me. You're fat and useless. Look at you. You look like a pig. Everyone wonders why I settled for you." Each insult cut me open in places no one could see. And the worst part, he didn't just say them in private. No, Derek enjoyed making me small in front of others. One night at dinner with his colleagues, I wore a navy dress I thought was flattering, hoping it would hide my curves. As we sat down, Derek leaned toward his friend and said, just loud enough for me to hear, "She still thinks she can pull that off." The table erupted in laughter. I sat there smiling weakly, pretending not to hear, but inside, I was dying. Another time, I reached for dessert at a party, and Derek rolled his eyes. "Careful, Bella," he said with a smirk. "People might mistake you for the buffet." His friends laughed, and I felt my face burn as I quietly put the plate back. Do you know what it's like to be laughed at by strangers because the one person who promised to love you made you the joke? To feel like your existence is a punchline? That was my life. I stopped dressing up. I stopped going out. I stopped speaking up at gatherings. I folded into myself, trying to take up less space, trying not to embarrass him, trying not to make things worse. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. At night, when I lay beside him, he would turn his back to me. When I reached out, he would flinch, and when I cried, he would laugh. "Stop whining. No man wants a crying whale." Those words, they broke something in me. I started to believe him, that maybe I really was worthless, that maybe I had become unlovable, that maybe the girl I used to be, the one with the big dreams and bright eyes, was gone forever. But as cruel as Derek's words were, I hadn't yet felt the sharpest blade he would use against me. Because just when I thought it couldn't get worse, the ultimate betrayal shattered me completely. Our 5th anniversary. I remember circling the date on the calendar months ahead, convincing myself that maybe this would be the night Derek remembered us, the way we used to be, the love we once had. I saved up for a new dress, deep red, the kind that used to make his eyes light up. I booked a table at our favorite restaurant, the one where he first told me he loved me. I even did my hair the way he used to like it, soft curls falling over my shoulders. I wanted so badly to believe this night could fix us. But he never showed up. I sat at that table for 2 hours, staring at the door every time it opened, telling the waiter, "Oh, he's on his way," even when I knew he wasn't. By the time I left, the restaurant had emptied out. Couples had laughed, toasted, shared desserts, while I sat there with a cold plate and a colder heart. I drove home with tears blurring my vision, my new dress feeling heavy on my body, my heart pounding with fear. Fear that maybe I had lost him completely. But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I opened our bedroom door. There he was, Derek, in our bed, with another woman. The world stopped. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. They didn't even flinch or even try to move away from each other while I looked at them in horror, my worst fears playing out right in front of me. The woman in his arms was elegant, and that was putting it mildly. She was slim in the way that made men drool, her features as sharp as her gaze as she wrapped her slender arms around my husband. "My husband!" "Derek," I choked out, but more tears rolled down my cheeks. "Oh, stop being dramatic, Bella. I'm a man. I have needs, and how can I satisfy them when I can't help but be disgusted when I look at you?" I could hear the sound of my heart breaking loudly in my ears. Derek looked at me, looked straight into my eyes, and smirked. "If you took care of yourself, maybe I wouldn't need someone else." His words hit harder than a punch, My knees went weak, my hands trembled, and then she, the woman lying beside him, laughed. She actually laughed. "God, she looks like a pig," she said, glancing at me like I was dirt. No wonder he strayed. "Look at you, you're pathetic." Tears burned down my face, but Derek didn't defend me. He didn't stop her. He didn't even look ashamed. He just rolled his eyes and said, "Stop crying, Isabella. You're embarrassing yourself again." I stood there broken, humiliated in the very place that was supposed to be my safe haven. Our bed, our home, our marriage. And in that moment something inside me snapped. I realized the man I had given everything to, my love, my loyalty, my youth, was gone. Maybe he had been gone for a long time. And the woman who stood there crying, begging for scraps of love? She wasn't me anymore. That was the night I packed my bags, the night I walked away. And though I didn't know it then, it was also the night my rebirth truly began. I left that night with nothing but a small bag. I didn't even take my wedding ring. It was the last thing I set down, right there on the dresser, before I walked out. It felt heavier than gold should ever feel, like it had been carrying every lie, every insult, every broken promise. The apartment I moved into was nothing like the home I once kept spotless for Derek. It was small, with peeling paint and a leaky faucet that dripped through the night. Some nights I couldn't even afford the heat, so I curled up under thin blankets, shaking from the cold and from the emptiness pressing down on me. I had to work 2, sometimes 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. Waitressing, temp office work, stocking shelves late at night. It was exhausting, humiliating even, to go from being a wife who once believed in a future of comfort to a woman counting coins at the grocery store. And then came the silence. The silence when I went to bed alone. The silence when I woke up and there was no one there. The silence of knowing the man I had loved with everything in me was lying in the arms of someone else, while I sat in a room that barely felt like it belonged to me. Depression hit me hard. Some mornings I couldn't even get out of bed. I would stare at the ceiling for hours, replaying Derek's words over and over. Worthless, fat, pig, no one will ever want you. And I believed them. I believed him. But somehow, through the fog, a small voice in me refused to give up completely. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was survival. I don't know, but it pushed me, one shaky step at a time, toward help. I found a therapist. I joined a support group. And for the first time, I sat in a room with women who had been broken too, women who understood the shame, the betrayal, the loneliness. They didn't laugh at me. They didn't call me names. They looked at me with kindness I hadn't felt in years. And slowly, something inside me began to flicker again. I wasn't strong yet. I wasn't healed. But I was breathing. I was moving. And even if I was crawling through the darkness, I was still moving forward. It was my lowest point. But it was also the start of something I couldn't see yet, the fire that would one day bring me back to life. The first step of my comeback wasn't glamorous. It was a doctor's visit. After months of feeling like my body was against me, I finally found a physician who listened, really listened. She explained my PCOS, gave me a plan, and reminded me that while it wouldn't be easy, it wasn't impossible either. So I started small, a walk around the block. Then another. I changed how I ate, not starving myself, not punishing myself, but learning how to care for a body I had hated for so long. Slowly, the weight began to shift. My energy returned in bits and pieces, and each pound I lost wasn't just about numbers on a scale. It was about proof that I could take control again. But I didn't stop there. I knew that if I wanted a real future, I needed more than survival jobs. So after my long shifts, I started taking night classes in business. I would drag myself into a classroom half asleep, scribble notes until my hand cramped, then come home and study until dawn. There were nights I cried into my textbooks, wondering if I was crazy, wondering if I was strong enough. But quitting was no longer an option. After 2 years, I took the leap. I launched a tiny consulting firm out of that same rundown apartment. At first, no one believed in me. Some clients mocked me for being too new or too inexperienced. Derek's voice still haunted me, "You're worthless, you're nothing." But I pushed through. Every rejection became fuel. Every small success became a stepping stone, and little by little the company grew. Clients returned, word spread. What began as one woman at a kitchen table became a team, then an office, then something bigger than I had ever dared dream. And through it all, I was changing. The woman I saw in the mirror was no longer the broken wife who had once begged for love. She was strong, she was radiant. She was powerful in ways I had never imagined. By the time 5 years had passed, I wasn't just healthier, I was thriving. My body was stronger, my mind sharper, my heart steadier. I wasn't chasing anyone's approval anymore. I had built a life, a business, and a version of myself I could finally be proud of. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have predicted, was that the empire I had built would soon bring me face to face with the man who once destroyed me. The deal closed on a Thursday morning. My firm had just acquired a failing investment company, one that had been sinking for years. For me, it was another step forward, proof that the empire I was building was real. For the employees trapped in that sinking ship, it was a chance at survival. But I had no idea what awaited me on the 27th floor. When the elevator doors opened, I stepped out in a fitted black suit, my heels clicking against the marble floor. The receptionist's eyes widened as she recognized me, but I kept my face calm, unreadable. I walked straight down the hall, my head held high, my heart steady. And then I pushed open the office door. His office. Derek's office. The man who once told me I was worthless sat there behind a desk, flipping through papers. He didn't even look up at first, but when he finally did, his eyes froze, his mouth parted, the color drained from his face. "Bella?" he whispered, his voice shaky, uncertain. I let the silence stretch for a beat before I answered, my voice cool and sharp. "It's Isabella. And yes, Derek, I'm your new boss." The shock on his face was almost delicious. His eyes darted over me, taking in the woman I had become, the woman he never thought I could be, strong, confident, powerful. This isn't real," he stammered. "You can't be... Oh, it's very real," I cut in. I stepped further into the room, standing tall, commanding the space that once belonged to him. "Your company was failing. I bought it. Which means every paycheck, every project, every decision now runs through me." He laughed nervously, trying to regain control. "Come on, Bella. Don't do this. This is personal, isn't it? You're here to humiliate me." I tilted my head and smiled coldly. "This isn't personal, Derek. It's business. You can either adapt, or you'll be replaced." His jaw tightened, his pride bleeding out of him in front of me. He looked like a man drowning, and for the first time I didn't feel the urge to save him. He tried to smirk, but his voice cracked. "You think you're stronger than me now? You think a few pounds lost and some money makes you better than me?" I leaned forward slightly, locking eyes with him. "No, Derek. What makes me stronger than you is that I survived you. And now, I don't just survive, I win." The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Derek had no comeback. No insult, no control. For once, he was the one shrinking in his chair. And I had never felt taller. I had seen it coming. Men like Derek always burned bright for a while, then fell apart when the world stopped clapping for them. The first crack was his mistress. The same woman he once flaunted in my face, the one who mocked me in my own home, left him for someone richer. I heard about it through the grapevine. She didn't even bother to hide it. One day she was on his arm at some charity dinner. The next she was photographed in Paris, clinging to the wrist of a diamond-covered billionaire. Derek tried to pretend it didn't bother him, but I knew it cut deep. His pride was his lifeline, and she had ripped it right out from under him. Then came the debts, bad investments, careless spending, the collapse of everything he thought made him untouchable. He had mocked me once for clipping coupons, called me cheap, told me I embarrassed him. Now he was the one dodging creditors, whispering into phones, drowning in the mess he had built. And then, the part I never thought I'd see, he came to me. I was leaving a meeting one evening when he appeared in the lobby. His once sharp suit looked wrinkled, his tie undone, his face gaunt. He looked nothing like the man who once puffed his chest and spat cruel words at me. "Bella," he said softly, almost pleading. I stopped. I didn't move closer. I just waited. "Don't look at me like that," he muttered, his voice cracking. I made mistakes, but you know me, you know I can fix this. If we just start over." His eyes darted, desperate, searching for some flicker of the woman who used to bend to his will, but she was gone. I let him speak, let him twist himself in knots, until he finally whispered, "Please, give me another chance. I miss you." My reply was calm, steady, final. "No, Derek, you don't miss me. You miss the control you had over me. That woman, the one you broke, the one who believed every cruel word you fed her, she doesn't exist anymore." His face collapsed, as if the last piece of his armor had shattered. For the first time, I saw him for what he truly was. Not a monster, not a god, not even a man worth hating. Just a weak, broken shell who had lost the only person who ever loved him without conditions. I walked away, my heels echoing across the marble floor. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. And as Derek crumbled behind me, my life was about to take a turn he could never have imagined. Adrian Cole entered my life in the quietest, yet most powerful way. He wasn't loud like Derek had been. He didn't sweep into rooms looking for attention. No, Adrian commanded presence without even trying. People noticed him because of the way he carried himself, calm yet certain, kind yet firm. And when his eyes landed on me for the first time, it wasn't my body, or my past, or even my success he saw. It was me. We met at an investment summit. I was presenting my company's new expansion strategy, nerves buzzing under my skin, though I hid them well. When I stepped off the stage, he was waiting. Not with the slick smile of a man rehearsing his charm, but with a genuine warmth that disarmed me instantly. "You don't just walk into a room, Isabella," he said, voice low but steady. "You own it, and I'd be honored to stand beside a woman like you." The words stopped me in my tracks. For so long I had been called names meant to crush me, fat, worthless, embarrassing. Now here was a man who saw the fire I had fought so hard to keep alive. He saw my strength, my scars, my soul, and he valued them. We started slowly. Dinners where we talked more than we ate. Walks where silence felt comfortable instead of heavy. He asked about my dreams, not just my past. He listened, really listened, in a way Derek never had. With Adrian, I wasn't too much or not enough. I was simply me. One evening, after a long day of negotiations, he found me staring out at the city lights from the hotel balcony. I didn't hear him approach until his jacket was draped over my shoulders. "You work harder than anyone I've ever met," he said softly. "But don't forget, you're allowed to be loved for who you are, not just what you build." My throat tightened. No one had ever said that to me before. And for the first time in years, I let someone hold me without fear, without shame. Adrian didn't just love the woman I had become. He honored the woman I had always been. He reminded me that my worth had never depended on my weight, or Derek's approval, or even my success. My worth had been there all along. With him, I didn't feel like I was rebuilding from ashes anymore. I felt like I was finally stepping into the life I was meant to live. I had not only risen from the ruins Derek left me in, I had found happiness, peace, and love that was real. The woman Derek once mocked as fat and worthless walked into his office as the CEO, and she never looked back. His insults, his betrayal, his cruelty, they no longer had power over me. They had forged me. They had turned my pain into a weapon, my weakness into strength. And when I stood in front of him, no tears in my eyes, no begging in my voice, I knew I had won long before that day. Because real victory wasn't about watching him fall. It was about rising, despite everything he had done to break me. It was about choosing myself, building a life where my worth was not tied to anyone else's opinion. And I want you to remember this. Never let anyone define your value. Never let their words chain you to a version of yourself that isn't true. The greatest revenge is becoming everything they said you couldn't be. Thank you for listening to Isabella's story. If it touched you, if it inspired you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling me any experience you'd love to share. Your story matters too. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.